to another episode of Living Room Wisdom, where your story is your glory. I am Patrina Wisdom, abundance activator, best-selling author, TEDx speaker, and founder of the Pure Abundance Retreat. And I am so thrilled to have my great girlfriend, Mimi, with Mimi Marie Nutrition, joining us today. So I'm super excited to have you here. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
I'm so happy to be here.
Yes. Your journey has been so incredibly fascinating, and I've seen you grow so much over maybe 10 years of knowing you.
I think close to it.
Yes, it's just been fantastic. And so I do want to dive into that a little bit, but before we do that, before we take the deep dive, I really want to have you share with our audience not what you do, but who you are. Like at your core, who is Mimi Marie?
So I am a woman for women. Ooh. Yeah, like I really feel like that's what I'm here for, is to make a difference for women / moms in particular. I feel like that's a really big calling for me because I have so many kids, and that's been such a huge part of my own life. Yeah.
Okay. I love it. A women for women. Mm-hmm. When you said that, I was like, yes. So since you brought that up, it's a great segue to hearing about your story of motherhood, because you have a very unique motherhood story, right?
Yeah. So I grew up in a drug-induced environment. My mom was a drug addict, still is. I ended up raising my brother and sister from the time that I was 18 and they were 1 and 3. And I raised them all the way until they grew up and moved out, and they're now amazing, successful adults. And then in addition to that, I had my own 3 children. So I raised 5 kids.
And how old were you when you took on your brother and sister?
I was 17, 18.
And then how long after did you have your own children?
I was in my early 20s when I started having.
So you had all 5, right? Mm-hmm. All 5 by what age?
By 23.
Woo!
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, when I was married, my ex-husband and I knew that we wanted to be done having kids early, so that we could, be grandparents early and just be done early, be young and be able to enjoy it all while we were young and healthy. And
I find this fascinating because most people that would have gone through this type of a situation with growing up, as you say, in a drug-induced environment and then being put in a position to take on your brother and sister, I feel like a lot of people would have been like, yo, I'm not having any kids. Like, I've raised 2, I'm good, right? And so what was it within you that still, despite all of this like challenge and dysfunction and toxicity and all the responsibility that was kind of dropped into your lap, that you still had this desire to be a mom and to take on, that challenge?
I think for me, it was just such a natural, part of who I am at the core. The one thing I knew that I was supposed to be in life was a mom. And even from a young age, I just never really thought about it. It's just that. That's the only thing I knew that I was going to do was be a mom.
Interesting. I think you're only the second person in life that I've met who said that, at least admitted it openly, right? I do believe there are probably a lot of women out there who feel that, like, I'm here to be a mom. But because of the way society programs us to do and achieve and become, I think that a lot of women would have a lot of shame around sharing that. And the funny thing is, my mother is one of those people who, she's like, all I ever wanted to be was a mom.
Yeah.
Right? And so it's very, very, very fascinating. And so how do you feel your life would have been different had you not had the children?
Had my own children or raised my...
Either.
Any. I think I would have been a lot more lost. I think I could have ended up being one of the statistics, because statistically I should have been an alcoholic or drug addict. I should have followed in the same footsteps as my mom. And so I think that my kids really gave me a purpose to live my life differently and to show them a different way. So that's the only thing that I could imagine, is that I would have been more lost, and I may have taken made a lot of very different choices.
So it sounds like they've offered a sense of grounding and purpose. Yes.
Yeah,
Wow.
definitely.
It's interesting because I actually didn't drink at all until I had children.
Yeah.
They drove me to drink.
That's a common.
Wine was mommy's best friend for a long time.
Yeah. Well, I drank for a
Yeah,
long time
right.
too, and I did have my own struggles with drinking, and I experimented with drugs. But the moment that I saw myself going down that path was when I realized I needed to keep an eye on myself, and I needed to really I needed to watch myself, and I needed to stay conscious of what I was showing my kids. Because I have tendencies,
Yeah, of course.
And
so now you are 40s, right? 40s, and an empty nester. What is that like?
Yeah, so my youngest is, he'll be 18 in 2 months. I love it. I love it so much. And so my oldest too, so my siblings that I raised, I call them my kids. They call me mom. They have babies, so technically I'm a me-mom.
Oh, grandma too. Yeah,
Grandma too, yep. And it's like it's so much fun. It's like the best thing, now. It's like you get to have all the fun with them, and then you get to send them home.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, I love it. And my life was so determined. My path was determined by being a mom and what I was doing for my kids forever, for as long as I can remember. So I feel like my life for me is really just getting started.
Right. And that's why I asked that question about being an empty nester, because a lot of moms are so caught up in being a mom that we lose our identity. And then when they do reach this point of their life where they're an empty nester, they're like, oh, okay, well, now what? Who am I now?
Yeah.
And so who is Mimi now without the children?
Well, you touched it exactly. And so much of what I do now is to help moms come back to themselves. And that's really what a lot of my work is, and all the programs that I'm creating and everything. But yeah, it's a constant, like I'm constantly reminding myself, and in the work that I do with women, to reminding them, helping them to remember to come back to ourselves, because not just moms, but women as general, it's natural for us to give so much of ourselves to other people, to our kids. A lot of us are in that sandwich generation where we also have our parents that we have to take care of. Now we have to have careers. So there's so much that we're just giving all the time, and it's so important to come back to ourselves and keep ourselves healthy and whole in the process, because we can't serve our purpose if we're not that first.
Absolutely. And so then what are some of the modalities that you're using to help these moms and these women?
Nutrition is the kind of source of the work that I do, but we look at lifestyle practices as a whole. So from the moment that you wake up in the morning until you go to bed at night, where are you fitting in that time for yourself that's so critical to help you come back, to help you remember who you are, and be in your power and make healthy choices for yourself. So we're looking at all of those lifestyle choices and practices, and helping you kind of reframe and redesign how you live your life.
And how did that start for you? Because you didn't come from this healthy lifestyle, and you've cultivated that for yourself, and now you're leading others. So how was that introduced into your reality?
Yeah, well, it started, I mean, I wanted to give my kids a healthier life because I was raised on fast food and just, horrible food. So it started with that, like wanting to teach my kids how to eat healthier and have them be healthier. Um, and then it kind of evolved. It's evolved. It's constantly evolving, right? But it really took a big turn when my son was diagnosed with epilepsy, and I realized I could help him with nutrition. Um, Although he wasn't on board with that.
I'm sure.
So that even more evolved after that, because it's like, okay, well, you can lead a horse to water, right? But you can't make them drink it. So it became more of just educating my kids and showing them what to do. And then, okay, now you guys get to make your own choices. And especially because they're all getting older. And so as my kids have gotten older and grown up and they're moving out, that's where the mom piece came in. I went through a divorce and I'm like, okay, who am I? Who am I outside of being a wife and being a mom? And that's where it's evolved into helping moms.
Wow. And so how many of your kids have embraced the healthy lifestyle?
I would say at this point, one. Like one solidly. Like
Okay.
she constantly is, she'll call me and tell me like, oh, look what I made for dinner. And the others kind of go in and out. It just kind of depends on what's going on in their lives. But yeah.
That's so funny. I tell you.
They
doesn't
make their
matter
own
all that you
choices.
put into them. They're going to do what they want to do.
Yeah. And
Man.
I mean, there's bits and pieces. Like my son knows he can't have dairy, so he won't eat dairy. So there's certain things that they incorporate and they know that they are the ones that get to decide what they're going to eat and how it makes them feel. But yeah.
And I mean, that's ultimately it, right? Is that you get to be in tune with your body to know what is absolutely a non-negotiable.
Exactly.
And sometimes we stubborn adults, I know what are non-negotiables for myself. And every now and then I'm like, fuck it. Right.
Right.
And I'm like, oh my God, what was I thinking?
Well,
but
sometimes we need
they'll
those
have
reminders
to
too.
Yes. I think everyone just needs to get to a point in their journey where they, commit to those decisions. And I'm pretty good at it for a time. And then I'm like, ooh, yeah, let's do this. Then I suffer.
Yeah. Well, I have faith. My kids are all still young.
Yes.
So I'm like, when I was their age, I wasn't making the best choices either. So I think they'll come around.
Yeah, they will. They will. They have the tools.
Exactly.
So let's talk about love. Right? You mentioned that you had a divorce, that you went through a divorce. And I don't know, little birdie told me that you might have found new love.
I have.
Yay.
Yeah.
I'd love to just, as much as you would want to share about that. But how's that been for you after, having that marriage and the kids and just everything that you've been through, and then being open and calling in this new love? What's that experience? And as an empty nester.
So I was married for almost 15 years. We were together for close to 20. And that was one of the biggest turning points in my life was my divorce. And it's been 10 years and it's been quite the ride. But
since the actual divorce, 10 years?
Almost 10 years.
So when we met, the divorce was quite new then. Okay.
Yeah. And interestingly, that happened right about the time that I started really diving into my own path of personal growth and development. And so I really started working on myself as a woman. Again, like the journey to look at myself and discover who I was outside of being a wife and mom happened about the same time. And so I've gone in and out of dating and embracing being single. But when I met my love now, I was on a heart sabbatical. And I was really just like committing to not dating or meeting anyone. And of course, that's when he came into the picture. But I really like the most valuable thing that I've ever done for myself is really embrace the time to be single and to get to know myself. And I went on this 2-month long road trip adventure. Just because I needed to get to know myself, because I had never had an opportunity to do that because I was a mom for so long. And so doing that and just really like getting to know myself and learning to love myself, just as I am, really opened up this new realm that I'm in, where I'm like in the healthiest, most grounded relationship that I've ever been. Like, I trust him. I trust where like I don't have to know, like I don't have to have it all figured out. I'm not like looking for the answers, because I just trust that where we're going is beautiful. Where we are is beautiful, but it's like it's completely different than anything I've ever experienced. It's amazing.
Yeah, it just is.
It just is.
And you're in the moment with it. I love that for you.
Thank you. I'm so happy. I just today moved out of my place that I had by myself, turned in the keys, and now we're living together officially.
Wow, a whole new chapter.
A whole new chapter.
Goodness. So if you could look 5 years into the future, who is Mimi? Where is Mimi? And what is the impact that you are offering to the world?
I, in 5 years, will be self-employed and running a business that is serving women. And I think that's really like the next level for me in my life, is being an entrepreneur. And I know that that's a whole other level
journey
of personal growth and, a whole new journey. But that's what it'll be. And I'll be impacting thousands of women. I've started my podcast now, so I'm really excited about that. It's a baby still, but that's going to feed into everything that I'm creating. I'm writing a book.
As you should.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's the next big piece, is I'll be working for myself and serving a larger scope of women.
Well, you raised 5 amazing children.
Thank you.
And if you can do that, you can tackle entrepreneurship. So I have no doubt that anything your brain can conceive is going to happen. That's exciting.
Yeah. Thank you.
I'm so excited that we had the opportunity to share in this way, and that I was able to share you with our audience. So thank you so much for being here. And I know that you all were inspired. So thank you again for joining us here in the Living Room Wisdom. And we look forward to seeing you again next week, where we'll spotlight more stories of amazing, resilient women like Mimi. So follow us on Instagram, follow us on Facebook, subscribe to our podcast, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you.